Okay. Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, and I'd like to welcome you all to the South Brunswick Board of Education meeting and to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to read the Statement of Advance Notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act of NJSA 10-4-6, also known as the Sunshine Law, was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. The primary purpose is for board members to discuss and vote on board business. Mr. Pawlowski sent the draft of the minutes from the September 26, 2024. They were posted on the board portal. Are there any changes from any board member? Hearing none, we will approve, or the minutes are written and are approved as stand. Next is the report of the superintendent, Sumaira. I'm going to say it, wait a minute, Tuatia. Oh, I'm sorry, what did I do? No, reports of the student superintendent. I have it, student representative. Did I say superintendent? I'm sorry. Congratulations on the promotion. Okay, let's try that again. Report of the student representative, Sumaira Tuatia.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So starting off with some school news, our Wear Teals Spin the Wheel event was a success. So students had the opportunity to engage in fun activities and answer questions about prostate and ovarian cancer awareness. The class of 2024 had a great time at our annual senior sunrise on October 2nd, where blue bagels and senior shirts were distributed. Our neon glow game was on October 10th, and student council sold all of their blankets as well as $200 worth of merchandise. Also on October 10th, we held the Hall of Fame event at our high school. Our Hall of Fame induction ceremony took place on October 10th at South Brunswick High School. We congratulated Tara Lynn Burniston. She was on the bowling team. Nancy McDonald, who played tennis and volleyball. Valerie Harmon, who played field hockey, basketball, and softball. John Viato played football and track and field. Mohammed Sanu, who played football, track and field, and basketball. Marisa Liptak, she was on the gymnastics team. Danielle Padovano, who's on the basketball, volleyball, and track and field team. And Morgan Murray, who's on the cross country and indoor and outdoor track. Student Council attended the fall conference on October 8th for the New Jersey Association of Student Councils at TC&J. The state officers were introduced, as well as the state charity. This year, our council is eligible to run someone to be on the NJ State Student Council. Interested STUCO members will attend an interest meeting at the conference, and interested student STUCO members attended an interest meeting at the conference, and there was an interview process to select who our council will run. Elections take place in January. Next week is our first Spirit Week for this year. Monday is Adam Sandler Day, Tuesday is Stunt Double Day, Wednesday is Wear Pink, Thursday is Class Color Day, and Friday is Black and Gold Glam Day. Next Friday, the 25th, is our homecoming game. Our theme for this year is Hollywood. Each grade is assigned a movie based on their class color. Class of 27 is Tangled, Class of 2026 is Spider-Man, and Class of 2025 is Frozen. Make sure to show up and wear black and gold glam. Moving on to athletics. Girls volleyball hosted an incredible pink out game dedicated to supporting breast cancer awareness. With a fantastic turnout, they raised over $700, all of which will be donated directly to the American Cancer Society. Our SBHS girls soccer program participated in the 3rd annual Soccer for a Cause festival in Metuchen on September 28th. The purpose of this event is to bring together girls soccer teams throughout our GMCs in a fun and competitive atmosphere to give back to the community. Out of 11 other programs, our program ended up donating the most money to the foundation, and we're honored with a plaque that will reside at SBHS until next year's festival. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate the update. Did you say the homecoming game is Friday?
Yes, next Friday.
This Friday? Oh, next
No,
Friday.
The 25th.
The 25th, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, thank you so much for your update. Okay, the next on the agenda is report of the president, just a couple things. Just on behalf of the Board of Education, would like to congratulate all of the Hall of Fame winners. Significant achievement, and we wish you all well. I know that a couple of the board members were there, and appreciate everything that the district administration did to make that a special celebration. So again, thank you, and again, congratulations on behalf of the board. Just a reminder to the board members, New Jersey School Boards is next week, and we will be attending Tuesday 10/22 to Thursday 10/24. We look forward to seeing you there. You each got a document, an envelope from Ms. Murphy regarding the expense reimbursement, so please don't forget to take that home with you this evening and submit that after the meeting. And that's it. So moving on. Next is the report of the superintendent, not the student representative, Mr. Feder.
All right, welcome, everyone. A few quick announcements, then we have a few other people that will make some announcements. We had Anti-Violence Awareness Week begins in the third Monday in October each year. Schools just observe this week by providing age-appropriate instruction to discuss methods for keeping schools safe. So this is something that all the schools engage with. Bobby, you talking about Ed Foundation, or are you talking about Thursday? Okay. I'm going to not talk about Thursday then, Bobby. I'll let you talk about Thursday. Last meeting, we had a discussion, and I shared the idea of having a safety council. We've since met in operations, and we're going to forego having a district safety council. What we are going to do is provide the community a full survey, a very wide berth survey, to find out where people stand as principals, supervisors. And I'd like to just thank everyone. Thank the principals and everyone. You guys do a killer job. It's awesome. Thank you. Yep. Now, another announcement, something that we've been talking about for a while. Today at 4 o'clock, we had a meeting with CJ, our Director of Athletics, Elaine, our soon-to-be interim Director of Athletics. You all know her from when she was the Director of Athletics. Brian Redfield, our Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, David, and myself. And we talked about the topic of cricket. So cricket is a desired thing to add to our school. And we, right now, are in the final development stages of adding cricket to be a club in South Brunswick starting this year during the cricket season around March, April through June. So that is happening at the high school level. There's some things we're working out still. There is a location. Brian, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, figured out what we need to do on our side. We also had an expert working with us to give us the information we needed to do what's right. And the beauty of this is the cost of getting the field ready, getting the uniforms, getting the materials for the kids is literally under $5,000. So it's affordable. There will be pay to play like every other thing that we do. And it will basically be a self-funding club for our stages, but it looks like everything's a go for this year around March, April. So good stuff. Good stuff for our kids. All right, so another notification. In collaboration with Rutgers University's Disability Awareness Month, our Student Services Department is hosting a panel discussion on what parents and students can do to best prepare for the transition from secondary schooling to university services. That's a really important part. Yes. So this event will be at South Brunswick High School on October 24th at 6 p.m. I believe it's a Thursday. That was today's. Yes, it is the Thursday. Additional information will be sent home in the district news that Murph puts out, and good stuff. So again, good stuff. We'll keep moving forward. Tonight we do have a presentation Suzanne and I will give on student achievement and district goals. But before that, I am going to call our first guest speaker tonight. It is Mrs. Bobby Binder from the Education Foundation. And there she goes.
Where is she going?
Bobby, you can stay. Yeah, she's coming back.
I hope I got your attention.
Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to talk to you about some great events that the Education Foundation is sponsoring that are quickly approaching. On Sunday, November 3rd, at the high school, we will host a 5K and 1 mile fun walk and run. Registration is open, so please visit our website at foundationsb.org or efsb.org. Here are some easy facts that you can remember. 8 a.m. is check-in and registration. 9 a.m. is the start of the 1 mile walk and run, which will be a course around the high school. 10 a.m. is when the 5K begins. The course winds through the neighborhood across from the high school off of Stouts Lane. There is 1 water stop along the course. There will be awards to top male and female 5K participants. Very much, and I hope to see everyone at both of our events.
Thanks, Bobby. Our next speaker is going to be one of our school principals from Greenbrook. Jody has been a force in the dyslexia awareness work that our district does. And Jody was willing to come up here and say a few words about that. If you're seeing everyone in red, that is the reason. And I'm a little afraid of Jody, so I wore red as well. And Jody, if you don't mind sharing some information about this month.
Thank you. My name is Jody Mahoney, and along with being the principal at Greenbrook, I co-chair the SBSD Dyslexia Committee with Lori Fagan, Allison Dubois, Sherry Sassine, Jack Medina, and a huge host of representatives at every building in the district. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. Since 2014, when New Jersey passed 3 laws related to dyslexia, South Brunswick has been proudly dedicated to being a dyslexia-friendly district by learning about and supporting this learning difference in all of our pre-K to 12 schools. This month and next month, we are facilitating the 2-hour mandated dyslexia training for all K-3 teachers, reading specialists, special education teachers, learning consultants, and instructional support teachers. In addition, South Brunswick is proud to cast our training net to include all K-5 staff and selected middle and high school staff as well. This is one example that demonstrates our commitment to supporting students with this learning difference. Did you know that 1 in 5 people may have indicators of dyslexia, or that 40% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic? Today, educators across South Brunswick are wearing red to bring attention to the 1 in 5 statistic. Did you know that dyslexia runs in families? Often it is undiagnosed because dyslexia masks intelligence and intelligence masks dyslexia. However, it's much more common than you may think. Those who are dyslexic may experience difficulty with learning letters and their sounds, decoding words, reading comprehension, written expression, grammar, mechanics, spelling, and rapid word retrieval. They may also have trouble rhyming or remembering names. Early intervention can greatly increase success for these students. Strengths for these students include verbal communication, visual arts, computer science, design, drama, electronics, mathematics, mechanics, music, sports, you name it, these are your big thinkers. If dyslexia runs in your family or you have concerns about dyslexia and your child, reach out to your child's teacher or any administrator. Thanks for allowing us to bring awareness to dyslexia this month.
My last part, I'm going to go to the podium for this one.
Superintendent.
All right, so the last part of today is we have 3 guests with us tonight outside of all of the remainder of our guests. Michelle Drulis and Roy Fryman, assemblymen and assemblywomen, fought for this district and all the other districts in this mode. But not only that, after that was over, we got another gift. So on top of the bill, I know these 3 legislators and their chief of staffs and their whole staffs worked to help out districts as much as they possibly could. And so tonight, I got to know these people well over the last year, and a pleasure that I did, and true champions for schools. And yes, our school was a beneficiary, but true champions for schools. Next week during school boards, I'm doing a presentation for board members on the 2% cap and what that means for school districts. And it's going to put every district into a place where if something else is not done, every district will be in this boat at some point. And so I thank you I thank you all very much. So we just want to, I'm going to call you up one by one if we could. Kaylee, if you can come up for Senator Zwicker and just take this. It's not quite worth as much as you did, but it's a beautiful thing. Kaylee, thanks so much. All right, thank you. And Assemblywoman Drulis, if we can have you come up. Again, champions for this district.
Very much appreciated.
Now Roy's going to get a special shout out on this one. So the reason is another call I received was there's a point where the Assembly and the Senate get a chance to vote on bills. They vote. And there's a process to do. I was never part of this before. And the process is they all go to their location, and in the location there's buttons. One is a yes button, one's a no button. And when it comes to vote on the bill, a bill is presented. There's discussion if there's discussion. And then there is an opportunity for each person to vote. Well, when this particular bill came up, the bill that we've all benefited by, I got to press the button to vote. I got to press Roy's button. So that's a very interesting way to put it. And it was a pretty cool moment. And what happens is that green and red, I think, green and red come up, and green is good. And there's a lot of green. So that was really good. So because of what I did when I pressed that button, we passed the bill. That's a story I'm going to stick with, Roy. Don't. So I'd like to invite Assemblyman Roy Fryman up. Yes. So now there's one more part. As I was mentioning, after the bill was passed, don't know how this all happens and how it works, but Roy did give me a call and explain that, Scott, we were able to get you some more money. So, thank you. And can we show this? If you can't read it, $485,000. And what I'd like to ask is if the board could please come up to the front so we can all get a picture together. Everyone, board administration, come up to the front.
You're part of this.
Yeah, you're in now.
One of the kids that are
You're the superintendent. Come on up here.
You're benefiting.
And if we can bring you guys out,
Stand.
we're all going to go
In
into
the
the
front?
front here.
Okay. Come on. You kids are benefiting.
Very nice.
Can't forget his flag.
Thank you.
Sorry, he gave me the real one.
I just want to say just a quick word, because I'm not sure Scott is presenting this entirely correctly, because he is leaving out the fact that the work that he has done upon behalf of the students here and the school, and how an incredible advocate coming to the committee meetings, coming to testify, pleading the case of on a couple of occasions, not only how much this formula has to change, how much it needed to change this particular year, but also going forward. So we heard that message. We are introducing legislation. Others are working on legislation. We know that it's flawed. We know the math is flawed. So the only thing I can really think of is that those who actually created the math on the formula were not educated in New Jersey public schools, because they don't know how to calculate math, because otherwise we wouldn't be living with what we're living with. So we want to say, the Assemblywoman and I want to thank you and for your advocacy, because that's why we're able to do what we're doing here. So we applaud you.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Before you leave, I do want to just say thank you to your staff. Kaylee, I wasn't as involved, but the emails were flying around, and you did an outstanding job, as well as please extend our thanks to Ty and Sarah for their effort in working with the district. It is truly, truly appreciated. And thank you again for everything you've done, and we look forward to a different formula. Thank you. Take care.
No, she said don't. I'm going to.
No, don't.
So along with Scott, who worked diligently, and she's telling me don't, Lisa worked her butt off on this. Lisa worked side by side, testifying, go to committee meetings, getting the community together. And I can tell you as a president of the board, that's not always something the president does. It's not the extent as to what a lot of presidents get involved with, but Lisa did. And I didn't want that to go unrecognized, that along with Scott, who really amazes me sometimes, but I didn't really want to tell him that. But, Lisa really, really stepped up to the plate. So as the vice president of this board, and on behalf of the rest of the board, we thank you, Lisa.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's a team effort. That was wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. I have just a quick question. I don't know if you can answer this now. The cricket, where's it going to be located, the field? Did they decide yet?
It's on one of the softball fields right now.
Oh, one in softball field.
Out of the
Okay.
high school, though, yeah.
Thank you. I was just curious where it was going to.
We have an extra field,
Yeah,
so no one's losing any space.
Yeah.
We have good field space, so.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I was just curious because I'm going to try and make one of those games because I don't know what cricket is about, but I'm going to learn. Thank you very much. Okay, next is presentation. Mr. Fetter again on the way up, and Ms. Luckborn for the presentation on the district goals and the assessment results. Thank you.
So, good evening. Thank you, Lisa. I want to first acknowledge our leadership team. As we've heard mentioned in this meeting, they are here tonight because they also believe in our students and are interested in what these results mean for us as a school system. So I thank them for joining us. Many of them sitting here this evening either serve as content experts and or are test administrators. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this evening's presentation. For our viewers at home, I think it's important to acknowledge that the Board Education Committee met in advance of this meeting and had a chance and opportunity to preview these slides and ask questions along the way. In addition, the full board received this slideshow in advance with a summary document about the assessment results. Annually, we're required as part of our CUSAC performance to report out on our spring student assessment results. And so that's what we are doing here this evening. Many of the slides you will see are designed with some of those requirements in mind. This quick slide shows you all of the standardized assessments that happen here in South Brunswick and in the state of New Jersey and what we will be reporting out on. The exception is the NJGPA, which is our graduation assessment. We reported out on that in August as we had our results at that time. So when we receive our information, I think it's important to note that there are some analytic challenges that come with standardized data. I think important to note is that it is one single data point taken during one period of year during the school year. It is difficult to use that one measure to really garner what a student is able or not able to do. So philosophically in our district, we use that as one of multiple measures when we talk about a student's profile. Another thing to note is that the state scores are not always provided on the same timeline that we receive district results. So today when we compare ourselves in some of those assessments to the state, it is because we do have that data. And on the slides that we don't yet have that, I will point that out for all of you. The other thing I wanted to say is it's also difficult for South Brunswick to compare itself to the state of New Jersey because we are curious about how we perform up against our peers of same community demographics and same school sizes. That information isn't available as well. And finally, the special education data. In terms of its validity, one would question students who are needing additional support being held to their grade level standard when we are well aware that they're not there yet. And so that is one of the challenges we face when we look at the data produced by some of our special education learners. The first test that we'll talk about is the Access for ELL. It is our English language learners. Take note that this is referred to as multi-language learners as we move forward. I'd like to thank Thomas Decker, who is our supervisor of our ML program and our world language program. Tom, along with our multi-language learner teachers, are responsible for the educational program for those students, but also for administering the assessment. I think important to note, this assessment is administered between February and March of the school year. It is an online assessment. A little bit of writing is part of that as well. It measures a student's English language ability in listening, reading, writing, and speaking. This next slide is giving you a historical context of the number of students currently enrolled in that program, but also provides you a 2-year look back. I think you would like to know that you can see we have had an increase over time, and we also have seen that the large numbers of students are in the elementary program. So I think that's important to see how we are continuing to increase those numbers across all grade levels. This slide shows you, it was produced by Linkit. Linkit is our data warehouse and one of our online assessment platforms. But what I want to highlight here is that we often get the question of how long it may take a student when they arrive to exit the ELL program. And so I will say that one of the trends that has been identified is that over time, we've seen an increase in initial year students that are arriving with no English. If we put that student on an initial year level 1, the prediction is that it can take upwards of that 5th year before they show proficiency in the English language. And so you can see if they arrive with a level 2 knowledge of understanding, it's a little bit quicker. And if they come in with more of the English language, they reach proficiency quicker. I think important to know about our multi-language learners is it depends on the age at which they enter our country. It also is dependent on what their native language may be and whether or not they're coming to our country from a country where English was also part of the educational experience. So these are many different variables for our multi-language learners. The next slides are going to walk you through some of their achievement on those assessments I referenced. So there is a scale here, entering, emerging, developing, expanding, bridging, and reaching. When a student is bridging or reaching, they have exited or are eligible to exit the program. And somewhere within that expanding band, the expanding band is a 4.0 to a 4.9 scale. 4.5 is when students are considered eligible to exit. We've seen a 27% increase in the number of students since the 2020-2021 school year. And this is showing us their overall score. So remember I said there were 4 different content areas. It's composites of all of that, and this is their performance. And to just show you at the elementary, remember that was where the largest numbers of students are. You can see the percentage in each of those bands, keeping in mind entering is that level 1. And the bridging is there at the other end of that, the 5 to 5.9. And the numbers are in the middle of that pie chart to show you. So we have a large number of our students in that developing band. And then this slide shows you 612, and you will see that we combined 612 because we are restricted in the numbers that we can publicly report out. We need to protect that number if it's so small, and so that's why you see 612 here. And again, you can see that we have almost 30% entering in those bands, and then we see the expanding, again, about 30%, where some of them are on that track to exit the program. We also are required to report out not only on the overall score, but by race, and in a little while you'll see specific programs. On this particular slide, you will see the bar graph up top, and if you are someone that is really curious about the numbers, on the bottom you will see the categories and you will see the percentage as well as the number, so that you get an idea of the sample size group of those students. Many of the slides tonight will follow this exact model. Just giving you a minute to take a peek. You can see the percentages of students that are in that, again, expanding, but you can also see the range of the 3 race groups of Asian, Hispanic, and white. You will notice that Black is not listed on here, again, because the number was too small to publicly report. This slide shows our students in terms of their program involvement. So yes, we know they're part of our MLL program, that's denoted by the ELL, but you can also see of those ELL students or ML students, how many of them are economically disadvantaged, meaning they qualify for free or reduced lunch benefits, and how many of those students also have a special education classification. So this chart, the reason I chose to highlight this one is if you look at the 22-23 school year, which is on the left, and you look at the chart on the right, we are comparing the same students to themselves in terms of growth. So you can see out of the 211 that were with us in the 22-23 school year, and those with us in the 23-24 school year, you can see that we have more students that are reaching that expanding or bridging, moving through that program to demonstrate proficiency. So another assessment administered to a small group of students is the Dynamic Learning Map Assessment, or DLM. The DLM is managed and administered by our special education department. The supervisors there work with our special education teachers to train and support them as they administer this assessment. Important to note that this is for our most significant cognitive disabilities. In fact, it's about 1% or less, and if you had more than that, you would have to go to the state for a waiver. It is the alternative to the NJSLA for those students that are not able to participate in that test because of their abilities. Some key features of it is this assessment is standard-based. It's aligned with the NJSLA. It is the alternative. It is flexible and individual to meet the needs of that particular student. It is technology-based. And it focuses on the essential elements. And so I think important to note is that within our Student Services Department, they are working to align the grade level standards to the IEP goals for our special education students. I'm just going to report out. They are assessed in English language arts, mathematics, and science as well. Science is only for students in grades 5, 8, or 11. And you can see the results here: emerging, approaching the target, at the target, and advanced. Annually, we have about 50 students that participate if we're going to look back to this year and last year and then this year. Okay, we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about our high school students. And this is the SAT, and we'll talk a little bit about AP testing. I'd like to thank Jeff Ruman, who is our academic assistant principal at the high school. He has oversight of the standardized testing there. He serves as the school test coordinator. In addition, he has support from his supervisors there, counselors, and teachers in administering these assessments. So let's go on. I think you are all familiar with the SAT, and I just want to acclimate you to what this slide shows us. It looks at the class of 22, 23, and 24, so you have 3 graduating classes. It is the best of their administration. Remember, a senior has an opportunity in their junior year or their senior year, so any of those test administrations, we have that score represented here, their highest. We also have the New Jersey corresponding classes, and we have the national. Remember, this is an assessment that is a national assessment, so we have an opportunity to see how we measure up against other students across the country. And so you can see the average score in the first column. The second one is our English and writing and reading. At the far right is your math. South Brunswick scores did go down in the 1 year there. You can see from I'm looking at 1258 to 1249. The national had an increase and the state had a decrease. Those are just some moments of what we might capture from this information here. The next few slides will focus on our advanced placement participation and the test results. We did have fewer students, as you can see here, 1,038 in the 23 year to 997. I would say we are also seeing some decreasing in our enrollment there as well. But proud to say that we have maintained 50% of our juniors or seniors participating in at least one. And you can see how many assessments were administered. We have a very rich offering of advanced placement courses here in South Brunswick. The next few slides will look very similar. We've chosen to display some of the most frequently taken assessments, which you'll see denoted example up top: statistics, 255 students in the 23 school year, 240 students in the 2024 school year. That is one of the areas where we have over time adjusted that prereq for that course. And then next to the number is the percent passing. So I'll give you a minute to just take a look at that. I guess another important thing for those of you that have been following our story related to opening up opportunity and access for students, we had lowered our prereq for more student access in the English language and comp, and we have also taken away prereq in the micro and macro economics to afford more students opportunities for those more rigorous courses. And with those shifts and with the numbers, we still continue to have an 89% overall pass rate for all of our exams. Passing is a 3, 4, or 5 on that assessment. This slide shows you, again, participation, and we broke it into some of those subject or core areas. You see the math and computer science, and then science. Just that side-by-side comparison. The environmental science down at the bottom shows an increase in the number of students taking that, and also an increase in our percent passing. And that is also true of physics. Take a look at 174 to 213, a 90% to a 95% pass rate. A few more of our courses. Again, this really just illustrates how many opportunities our students have for that advanced placement programming. A new slide that Mr. Rubin was able to create for us is this one, which I think is just interesting to kind of show some of the success we have here in South Brunswick. So 2 years worth of data, 23 and 24 again. And I want to share that an AP scholar has the qualifications of they scored a 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. So of those 153 students, they took 3 or more exams and scored a 3 or higher. And the AP scholar with honor, they need to have an average score of 3.25 on all of their AP exams that they have taken, and 3 or higher on 4 or more exams. And you can imagine that the distinction category is saved for students that have an average score of 3.5, 3 or higher, 5 or more AP exams. And so you can see that the average score of those scholars in the 2-year comparison. And I think important to note and celebrate that once again, for the 2024 school year, South Brunswick High School has made the AP honor roll with silver status. So the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment results that we'll segue into next are for our English language arts performance. There is reading and writing that accompanies this response to literature. I'd like to thank, there's a person behind the curtain that's instrumental, and that is Michael Moore out of my office, and he helps us to make sure that the data that is put into the system is ready for us to assess our kids. In addition, Jamie Bomer, our Director of Special Projects, serves as the district test coordinator, and in that role, she is moving for the entire month of the test administration, but also months in advance of that. And so she trains all of the school coordinators, she supports them, she monitors, she makes sure that the test is being administered with fidelity, and when there is an issue, she makes sure that she addresses that and works with the state on how to resolve any problems that come up. In addition, she works with our child study teams to make sure that all accommodations for students in our special education program get what they need to be most successful on a standardized measure like this. So this is just to show you the participation. We're required to show you how many students participated in the test. This graphic breaks down grades 3 through 9, and then all grades. Those are the grades that are tested in English language arts. And just on the far right shows you the difference. It shows you a little bit about how that enrollment has shifted over time. I will also note here that if you are a multi-language learner, like I spoke about earlier, if you arrive new to the country after July 1 in the year before this test administration and are enrolled in an ML program, you are exempt from taking the ELA test because you are taking the Access for ELS test. So again, this graphic here shows you our 3 grade levels at the elementary. This assessment is measured on not meeting in the red, partially meeting in the orange. That yellow is approaching that standard or proficiency, and the 2 shades of green are meeting and exceeding those expectations. And so you can see that in grade 3, 54% of our students, that's that first time they take a standardized test. You can see in grade 4 it was 66%, and you can see in grade 5, 68% meeting or exceeding.
So I just want to point out something when you look at these tests. When I look at these results, I'm not impressed. I'm going to be honest with you. 68% kids passing, exceeding, or meeting in 5th grade. That's a problem. It sounds like it's a problem, right? Where are the other 32%? How do we have 32% of our kids not able to basically pass a basic level test? Now, what we don't have is we don't have how other districts that are like us scored. So I did a little investigating because my concern for this is this something South Brunswick is doing or not doing? Or is there something else going on? Sure enough, in speaking with a district that is generally decently, significantly higher performing than our district, it doesn't look much different. So in other words, the test has to be a consideration into what these scores represent across the board. So, because again, 68% passing, and in 3rd grade, 54% exceeding or meeting. All the rest of the kids are approaching. That sounds like things are not going well. And you heard Suzanne talk in the very beginning about this is one metric. It's one thing. The problem with standardized tests, at least in our state, is we don't have enough information about what this means. We need to know more. Are they doing, number one, are they doing an item analysis? Are they looking and saying, okay, just imagine how the state looks, right? So if we're at 68% pass rate in 5th grade, I bet the state's below 40% pass rate in the same grade. If they have a test that shows that 40% of your state is not passing the test, what are they doing with this test? Are they analyzing question by question to see which questions were not answered correctly? Do they then look at the question and say, is the question a reliable and valid question? Or was it worded in a way that would confuse students? Maybe they are. I'm not sure how to use these to make those determinations. So we really don't put all of our stock in these results. With that said, of course, like higher scores, but is that feasible, especially with the point that Laura just made? If you have special education students, and Suzanne pointed this out, special education students are generally, where's Laura? Laura, are you here? Elementary special education students about 2 years behind? It's kind of the program, and they're classified as a result of a disability that keeps them about 2 years behind or more? Well, those students are taking a test and then being asked to score on grade level.
Exactly.
How? Why would you expect that to be the case? So for all those reasons, we have to present this information, but really the reason I came standing up here is to make this point. And I'll let Suzanne finish. But it's really to say the results are the results. I'm not completely saying they're worthless results. They're not. We can look at individual kids and see what individual kids are doing. There's a lot of value by school and all of that. But in the aggregate, without information about every other district, at least there used to be something called district factor group where you'd get all the districts that are I's or GH's or J's. That's gone. We don't have any of that information. The state's not providing it. So just keep that in your minds as you go through this. And with that said, we score, pretty strongly in the state of New Jersey. And yet that's what you're seeing is like strong for the state of New Jersey on these same tests that they give every year. So, back to you.
Thank you. And this follows that trend when you look at our students in 6, 7, 8. It is the same setup, same story. 6th grade, 79%, grade 7, 80%, and grade 8, 68%. We do have a few slides coming up that will show you the state numbers, actually. Here is our grade 9. Remember, grade 9 ELA is the last time they are formally assessed on the NJSLA. It is our 11th graders who take that graduation proficiency test, so the students have 1 year off. I want to orient you to this because this is a lot of percentages up here, but I want to share what's here. And this presentation, board, you already have it, but we will make this available for the public to look at a little bit closer. But what we have here is the NJSLA ELA 2-year comparison, South Brunswick to the state of New Jersey. The ones with the lighter yellow column represents the 2024 test administration. The ones that are in that lighter yellow are South Brunswick, And to the right of that yellow is the state for that very same time. And where I'm going to focus us is actually on the next slide, because the next slide will show us those students, the percentages that met or exceeded. But to orient you, you will see this again in the area of mathematics when we get to that part of the presentation. So to Scott's point, you can see in that very first row, grade 3, in 2024, while 54% of our South Brunswick students were meeting or exceeding, the state was 43%. And then you can follow that down. So if you look at grade 7, 80% of our 7th graders were meeting, 53% of the state. And of course, I'm not rounding exactly, but you can see those there. Again, for the NJSLA, ELA, we need to report out publicly on our race. You will see here that our number of Black was a large enough sample of grades 3 through 9 that we could report out on that, so that is an additional subgroup you're seeing here. And as Scott was talking, I think important to note is certainly the percentages that you see in those subgroups that are larger than that 10% is an area where we want to know a little more. And so with the Linkit platform, when we run these reports, we actually, as a leadership team, have the ability to click that in the platform and immediately get the list of the names of who those students are, so that we can then overlay local measures and how they're performing within that classroom environment so that we may support those students. Again, we have to report by program. So this will show you if a student is listed there as ELL, this does not include a student who arrived for the first time to our country who was exempt. These are students who are actively enrolled in the ELL program or the ML program for longer than that first year. And so you can see how those students performed at those subgroups. So next we're going to move on to mathematics. In mathematics, it's grades 3 through 8 are our grade level math. We also assess Algebra 1 at the middle school, Algebra 1 at the high school, Geometry at the middle, Geometry at the high school, and Algebra 2. So I want to just note that the N size in grade 8 here, you start to see a smaller sample size when you think our cohorts are about 500. 600 students. You can see that this is lower because this is where we start to bring out our students who are taking Algebra 1. And then this shows you, and we have it on the same slide again, we see the number of students in grade 8, grade level math, versus middle school Algebra 1, high school Algebra 1, middle school geometry, high school geometry, and Algebra 2. The one thing I want to just highlight here is this little asterisk that you see. The high school math decrease, you can see between the 23 and the 24 school year, a big change, 700 students assessed to 238. What I need to explain here is that there is a federal requirement that students test for their first time when they're in high school. And so in that 2023 year, the guidance wasn't explicitly clear. In fact, it was confusing. And in Jamie working with our contact at the NJDOE, we realized that we only needed to test if it was their first time. So if a student was in 8th grade and I took the Algebra 1, one would think they have met the requirement, but in fact they have to sit as a high school student for one of those standardized assessments. And so that's how those numbers came to be. This is our elementary performance. And again, important to note, all students. And I think another important thing to clarify here is that if you are a multi-language learner who arrives after July 1, you are tested in mathematics. You are exempt from the ELA, but you test in mathematics. If you arrive in February and this test is in May, you're testing in grade level standards in a language that you may not yet be proficient. And you can see grade 3, 4, and 5, just around that 65% proficiency or exceeding. And then when we switch here, this gives you a look at how the middle school did, and this is grade level math. And your grade 8 shows you that these are the students who math may not always come easy to, right? These are our grade level students after we've taken out students who are ready for that Algebra 1 program. These will be the students that next year, when they sit as freshmen for the Algebra 1 at the high school level, you will see their scores denoted there. And I think important to note is that as we, as a supervisor group of the content area, looks at this information, we're looking at the big picture. We're looking for trends. We're looking at our curriculum. We're looking at our pacing. We're looking at our standards. We're looking at our resources. That is one way that we use this big data set in making some decisions at the district level. This is our middle school Algebra 1 performance. 6 and 7 is combined because our N in the grade 6 was so small that it was one of those protected that we can't report out separately, so we combined them. And you can see our grade 8 algebra, our students that are performing at or above grade level with their mathematic capacity, 81% of them met or exceeded that expectation. We shift to our high school mathematics. Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and the geometry. Just keep in mind that Algebra 2 and geometry were not all students. They were likely students taking it as they were entering grade 9, with maybe some newcomers that needed to test because they weren't here during their 9th grade year. They might have tested in their math in 10th grade or 11th grade. The next few slides give you that same comparison. This chart should look familiar now. We're going to advance to this one so that we can see the far right, our levels 4 and 5 meeting and exceeding those expectations in comparison to the state of New Jersey. Our grade 7 down there, 55% of our district were meeting or exceeding in comparison to the state, which was 37%. And as Scott said, you know, the curiosity of how we measure up against those like districts is really important for us. So we've actually asked Linkit if there's any data within their system that might help us do some of that comparison to just get a better understanding of our current status and relation. When the state of New Jersey releases performance reports on all of the schools, you can look as a community member, as a parent, as a staff member at how other schools are doing, but you don't get it presented in a way like this. Again, this is now looking at the upper level maths. And again, that grade 8 showing that number of proficiency students.
If you want to just look at high school Algebra 1, real quick, middle slide. High school Algebra 1, if you look at us, we have a 19% pass rate of the 4 and 5, but the state outperforms us by 39.5%. Anyone want to take a guess as to why?
Early, and those find it difficult, maths difficult, take it at a later point.
We open the door for more students to take it earlier. So our percentage of high school Algebra 1 students is going to be significantly lower in number and probably in their math skills than the state, because not every school district pushes the math Algebra 1 into the middle school level. So that's why that looks like an anomaly on that.
Look with the middle school algebra one,
Yes. Yes. And if there are students with IEPs.
IEPs as well.
Just shows you all math, so any of the math assessments, grade 3 math, all the way up to that high school battery of assessments. This is all students, and we can see our breakdown again by our race. These were the ones with the number that was large enough for us to report out. And here we are with our subgroups, by program. I think it's also important to note that if you have a student who is economically disadvantaged, they are represented in that row. If that same student is a multi-language learner, they're also represented in that row. So if you are in multiple categories, your score shows in multiple places. You're represented in each of those areas. So the NJSLA Science, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the DLM, is administered to students in grade 5, 8, and 11. It is kind of like that capstone of each level's programming. These are the numbers that participated in those 2 years. And these are our results. The scale is a little different here. You can see red is below proficiency. It's a 4-point scale below proficiency, near proficiency. Green, the lime green, is proficient, and advanced is that darker green. And I will share that on this slide you see that in grade 5, 48% were proficient or advanced proficient. I did some research and found what's not on this slide is that the state of New Jersey was 29% for grade 5 in comparison to our 48. For grade 8, 40% for South Brunswick and New Jersey was 21%. And grade 11 was 46%. And for the state of New Jersey, it was 28%. So just to put some context, the state was somewhere in those 20s, almost 30%, and we were between that 40 and 50% of our performance here. This breaks it down by our race. And again, by program. You will see that the MLs are not represented here because that sample size was too small to report out publicly. So throughout the presentation, we've alluded to some of the things we do with the information that we get and how we might use that as a system, but the next few slides show us a little more detail. So in regard to our programs and strategies used, certainly when we have students that we see in the red, as you see here, that are not meeting those standards, we look to individualize their program in some way and target instruction to meet their unique needs. Sometimes when we have a group of students with a similar need, we will cluster those students together to provide some support. As I mentioned, our supervisors look at this information to review our programs that are being offered, to look for our alignment, and to check our pacing. In addition, with teacher support, some of those trends that are found are then turned into professional development when we work with our staff on some of those early release days or days that we are closed, like those upcoming days in November. In addition, at the elementary level this year, we have dedicated instructional coaches that are working with classroom teachers, model lessons in the environments, looking at student work samples together. So that is one of the ways we are addressing and supporting our teaching staff. And then this just showcases some of the many programs that we are utilizing in our system and some of the best practice in terms of strategies. I'll continue to promote that full-day preschool. 30% of our entering kindergarten students this year were part of our program. So they had that jump start. So that is really exciting. We have implemented foundations in our kindergarten, first and second grade classes, which is a phonics-based program to support early literacy. And what I would like to share about that is we are also piloting that, not piloting it, we've implemented it to our third grade students in our Title I schools. So that is a purposeful decision, and it has been for the last 2 years where our Title I schools have come first with the implementation and resources of that phonics program. But like I said, it is rolled out to all K-2 in this current school year. A few years back, the board supported a redesign of our special ed program where we have our resource center classes in certain locations in sister schools model, one grade level for that content instead of multi-grade implementation or delivery. We have a Ready to Rise summer program, which has evolved for the past 3 years, really focusing on students who are entering grade 1 and 2 that need some additional support. Our elementary intervention, not our elementary, well, we have an elementary intervention team, but our middle school instructional support or intervention team, through some of that funding, was able to continue. So each of our middle schools has 6 interventionists that support students, pushing into those environments and pulling out. Each middle school has 6, 3 in ELA and 3 in math. High school has been working diligently on credit recovery for students. They ran a summer program and they support students during the school year. And for the multi-language learner students, there are transitional courses to support those learners. And on the right-hand side, I think the most important I'd like to just highlight is while it is about that academic performance, progress, and growth, it is also about the social, emotional well-being of our students. So in our elementary schools, we use a screening tool called the DESA. And in our middle school this year, we have brought in Wayfinder, which is a curriculum for our middle school students in that area. So addressing not only academic, but the social, emotional needs of our students. So that brings us to our district goals, of which there are 3 to focus our work in this upcoming school year, and we're going to share those with you now. Many of the headings will be familiar to you, board, and to the public. So the first being safety and security. And in the superintendent's report, you heard him speak. Scott referenced that we will be sending a survey out to our stakeholders. We will be analyzing those results and reporting back out. And the second part of that goal is an audit of our student codes of conduct. So to our parents watching at home, annually you're asked to acknowledge receipt of the student code of conduct. That really is our expected behaviors of our students here in our different levels. And in addition, it shares the consequences or remedial steps that we will take when a student needs some extra time in learning some of those routines and procedures. So we'll be doing an audit of that. And I think important also to note is that the integrity violations, recognizing that a trend has been an uptick, mostly in our secondary level, but it's not that far off from our elementary, some of our upper elementaries as well. And so it's the
Dayton Dean's building representing all preschool. The study, and this is an important distinction, the study does not mean a change. Could mean a change. The study means to evaluate our current system and ask the big question, is what we're doing the best we could be doing for kids? Period. That's the first question. The fiscal side of that, of course, plays a factor, because if you don't have the money, you can't do the best things for kids if you can't afford to do them. But at the end of the day, that's going to be rolling out shortly. You'll hear more about that. The community will hear more about that. And we'll be broaching this as the year goes on. The advocacy, as you heard, I didn't share, but Kaylee from Senator Zwicker's office did share. I did receive a draft bill, about 3 weeks ago. The draft bill focuses on a change to the actual formula, adjustments to the formula. We had a meeting about that bill. We made recommendations. We did invite Kaylee to come because she's been working hard on this. We had the Education Law Center. We had NJASA. We have people that really know the formula well. And we made a series of recommendations to a draft bill by Senator Gopal out of Monmouth County. And Kaylee shared with me tonight that that bill will hopefully be dropping by the end of November. Now, that's on. We'll be part of that advocacy as well. And of course, we're going to continue to have to adopt balanced budget. It's kind of a basic, thing that we do. So.
And then the final goal is disproportionality. And so, I'm hopeful that as you looked at the data that was shared tonight, you did see red in some of the subgroups related to race. You saw red in some of the programs, the multi-language learners, our special education population. So our work can't stop in that area. And so we will continue to work with those specific subgroups on what we're doing to help them meet the standard and those benchmarks. In addition, we will be implementing, you see there, it's a comprehensive coordinated early intervening services plan. I know that's a lot, so CCEIS. The premise of that is that if you've been following some conversations and our story, you know that South Brunswick was cited for some of our disproportionality, meaning that you were maybe 300 times more likely if you were a student of a specific race to be classified. If you are a student of a particular subgroup, you might be 200 times more likely to be suspended by being removed from the school day, out of school suspension. If you are a specific race, you might be more likely to receive a particular classification in special education. And so we are very aware of those as a district. And are working to lessen that so that we don't have disproportionality. And so we have a plan that we needed to submit to the state. Rafael Morales partnered with me. He helped to create that plan. And one of the things included in that plan is rebranding our intervention and referral services, which is a way that we support students and teachers within our system. So there is a lot of work happening in that area this year. And for those of you that are really versed in multi-tiered systems of supports, it has to do with the tiers of intervention and how we support students. And so there is a tier 1, which happens in our classroom settings through the work of our curriculum and best instructional practices, and you continue through those tiers depending on what your needs are. And so a tier 2 might be more intense in the type of intervention you receive, and you may be pulled out for periods of time in that subject area where you need help. And a tier 3 is even more targeted for a specific amount of time, progress monitored consistently, to see if you are responding to that intervention. And if you are not, then we make an adjustment. And so those are the types of interventions that happen all the time in our settings. And so we will be looking at those tiers and how we are using those to support our students. And finally, universal screeners are really important to this work. It is that baseline look of how a student is doing and being able to identify students that may be in need or at risk of additional interventions or services. And so that is part of the work that's under this disproportionality goal. So once again, many of these slides were done with the help of Linkit. So we are grateful for that resource that we have in district to allow us to really go deep with data, and we are excited to have that resource. That concludes our presentation. I know that many of you had emailed me questions and had them answered, and we had that one forum, but I'm sure tonight might have sparked a few more. So if there are any questions.
This side?
I have a comment.
Yep.
Comment? Can I go ahead?
Dr. Raj?
So, just
Here,
a
bring the
comment.
microphone.
The presentation was very detailed, and it gave a bird's eye view of student achievement. One thing that caught my eye is the pattern, even though individual points of data might not make sense in themselves, but the pattern, wherever data was available, the district was outperforming the state, and that speaks, to me, that speaks volumes, especially because we are operating in a budgetary constrained environment for a long time. It's been, the budget has been a problem for years now, and despite that, the pattern is that we've been consistently outperforming the state in many of those metrics that was presented today. So we hear a lot of insinuations, in the public. So I really urge everybody to go through this presentation and keep this thought in mind that all this has been happening in an environment where, budget has always been a challenge.
Thank you.
And just one thing that occurred to me as I was listening. The state standardized test, y'all know where I feel about that. When was the test actually given?
May.
In May. So the students had an extra month and a half of learning?
Yes, there was a time when the NJSLA started as early as March, but it is
As
now
March,
moved to
that's where
May.
I was going, not May. So here we are giving a test in March for a subject that has not been completed for a
Right, but
student.
now it's May.
But now it's May.
Yes.
2025.
No, this year.
2024.
Correct.
So 2020, so when we look at those numbers and
So
we
your
compare
2023, Lisa, and your 2024 were both May administrations. So we
Okay,
had
so-
covered the majority
So
of the
that covered
curriculum.
May, okay. So that covered the majority, but in the past, it was park with, now this is just park with lipstick on, yeah, okay. The one thing that I want to, and I know you guys are really aware of this, but coming from someone who's experienced it, it's the stigma of being, when that intervention takes place, and the child is being taken out of the class, either for gifted and talented or for an intervention. I know that the teachers are very, very aware of that, and I just want to acknowledge that it's extremely important, because a child that is being pulled out, either gifted or talented or not gifted and talented and needs intervention, sometimes carries that stigma within the classroom, outside of the classroom. So I just urge everyone to be aware of that, so the child is not impacted either way, actually. So that's just a point on that. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is AI. And I know you have it up there, and I think a lot of it has to do, and I don't know if there's an answer to this, that you guys are the experts, but one of the concerns that I have is that there's so much pressure on kids today to do well from their families, that the family environment needs to understand that AI is not the answer. I don't know how we get that across, because I don't want kids to feel that that's what they need to depend on to pass a class, to please parents. So I don't know what to do there. I don't know, not that I know what to do, but I don't know what the answer is, other than trying to get the community to understand that it's important for kids to learn, and it's not just about a test, and it's not just about an exam, and it's not just about an essay, to try to get that essay perfect. So I just ask the administration to consider how can we communicate to parents how to properly use AI. And I'll just put that out there.
I think it's just an important reminder for all of us about how we harness the possibilities with AI,
Right.
but proceed with caution with how we put parameters and limits on that,
Right.
and how that is a responsibility of not us only as educators,
Right.
but what the parents' responsibility is, and how we can help educate all on how we can best use this tool
Right.
that's continuing to advance at a rapid pace.
Right, it's, technology is so far ahead of us. It's a great tool to find the right word, but just somehow to get that across. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to jump on what you said. We're also looking as a board to look at our cell phone usage and all that is coming up. So that's all going to be, yeah, we're on top of that.
Ms. Karthik, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just had a question on the last slide that you had shown on disproportionality. I think you were alluding to some statistics that sort of point to some subgroups that are more likely to be either categorized in certain other categories. I was just curious to understand that study. Is there a study that you're referring to for that statistics, or what is that data? Or did I misunderstand that?
So the state of New Jersey, in looking at South Brunswick's data, cited us for disproportionality in the information they have on us as a system. So you know that we're accountable to the state for reporting all kinds of information.
Right.
So when they looked at that and they analyzed our results, that's how they identified us in the specific areas that I mentioned for the disproportionality work. That's where that information came from.
And they share that data with you, or the basis of the study that on which they are citing us?
Correct. They give us a report where they give us the percentages and the areas that we need to focus on.
I see. Okay.
Ms. Ferrer?
Yeah, I just have two comments. I've heard recently that some districts are considering a ban on cell phones during school hours. And I think we've talked about that a little bit here. I just wondered what you think as educators, there's a lot of educators in this room right now, what you think about where we are with that as a district.
So we are going to be doing exactly what we wrote, which is having a strong look at cell phone usage this year.
Okay.
So we're not going to give an answer to that yet, but we're going to have an answer for that before the year's out.
Did you have it up there?
That's up there.
Oh, I didn't see. Okay, good. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, we also just talked about it. Didn't I just ask you that? As far as like, we as a board are going to be looking at policy and stuff, right? That was brought up in.
The district will be studying it, the board will be looking at
Right,
policy,
okay.
and eventually we'll have a direction and an answer on
Right.
if we're looking to do anything more than we currently do or not. Yeah.
I know this is probably an impossibility, but for many, concerning the disproportionality, it would be great if we had vouchers for students with more challenges to get extra tutoring in facilities that are available throughout the town, and have like a voucher system that would be available for their, if it's feasible. I don't know if it is feasible, but just a consideration, I don't know.
Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Thank you very much, Mr. Federer. Thank you very much, Ms. Luckborn. Appreciate the presentation. Will this be up on the website? I meant to ask you. I'm sorry. It will be. So though, for those that are interested in reviewing it a little bit more, it will be up on the district website. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to administration. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, board committee and liaison report. So starting with the curriculum committee, any update?
You just saw it.
Yeah. But you had
That's what
a
we're gonna
meeting, so can't,
We did not meet since we went over this. That was the last time we met, when Suzanne and Dave, Scott went over all these, and half the audience was in our meeting.
very good. Thank you. Any update from the finance committee?
There is no update, Madam President.
Next meeting is coming up, right? Like in 2 weeks, I think?
Possibly.
Possibly 2 weeks, okay. I had it down on my calendar, I wanted to check.
Could you
Policy.
confirm, please?
Huh? Oh,
Okay,
it's
thank
in 2
you.
weeks, right, I think? Well, you'll get it out to us, okay, never mind. Yeah. Policy committee, any update?
The policy committee met prior to the board meeting on September 12th, and in attendance were myself, Deepa Karthik, David Pulowski, Suzanne Luckborn, Evelyn Mammon, and Kimberly Malloy-White. We mostly went over any questions and comments regarding policies which were adopted at the last board meeting, but we also discussed policy regarding AI and also research regarding cell phone use in schools. And that is it.
Great, thank you very much. And business operations, any update?
Yes, I do. We met
Did you give?
last week, October 7th, sorry. And we had a meeting that was supposed to be scheduled earlier, and then we wanted to make sure that all our members attended. I was in attendance, Raja, Mike Mitchell, our board president, Scott was there, David was there, Brian Redfield was there, and Jim Conover was there. It was basically about our district security, or the whole thing was about our district security. And a report from Jim Conover, who, for the public, Jim Conover is head of our security, and he's the former chief of police of East Brunswick, if you didn't know that. And he provided a really thorough presentation about security, where we are now, and how we look for the future. Mr. Feder joined in. We discussed what Scott brought up earlier about keeping it within the operations committee. And like Mr. Feder said, we decided at this point to keep it within the operations committee because there's a lot of sensitive topics that are discussed, and we're gonna, Scott's gonna, with Jim Conover and the committee, construct a survey for the parents to, and then we'll be able to take a look at that and see where we're going from there. It was extremely informative, and I think once we get a better feel from the study, that we can help the board formulate a plan for security going forward, because it is, unfortunately in this day and age, it's a very important subject, and we need to make sure that we continue to have a handle on it like we do.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions for the chairs of the committees? No? Moving on to liaison reports. Any liaison update? Mr. Nathanson.
I brought it up last time, but I wanted to continue with it a little bit because our assembly people were here, and Scott brought it up a little bit, but Assemblywoman Drulis with Assemblywoman Katz has a companion bill to Senator Gopal as far as getting the ball rolling on a new formula. It's sitting in committee right now, so there is some, like Scott said, there's movement on a lot of that stuff right now. And both of them were really, especially Assemblyman Fryman, he was really passionate about a lot of subjects that are near and dear to our hearts as far as money is concerned. And they brought up consolidation, and, Senator Gopal hit on it, but there are a lot of drawbacks to consolidation too, which some districts that already have tried it were members there, because we had, for the first time in a while, we were, every so often we get together in Trenton. This was live in Trenton, and it was like almost every district was there. So we got to hear from some of the districts that within the last couple of years have consolidated and stuff. And they also have got involved in township deals with some of these new projects where they give them tax deals and stuff. And it ends up basically saying it nicely, screw the school districts because they don't get the benefit of the full amount of money going to the taxes. So there was a lot of things, and the assemblyman was really responsive in saying that, you know, he's working on a lot of that stuff right now. So the reason I brought it up again, because, and Lisa and I have gone to a lot of them. On Wednesday is the legislative session in Atlantic City. Senator Gopal is back this year. Last year he wasn't there because he was running in a contested district, and he stayed in his home district. He's going to be there. The majority leader is back again. She's back. And the two Republicans that are normally there, Senator Scallion, and I forget the assemblyman's name. So it's usually a very good session, and it's well attended, and you get your questions in. And if you don't get your questions in, you just follow Lisa straight up why she's asking the questions after the session. So, you know, it's an important session. If you don't go to anything else,
That's a good session.
that's the one you should go to.
Besides Scott's session on S2.
Correct. Besides Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other
Okay.
Wednesday is the legislative session. Wednesday's the I think it's in the morning. Thank you.
Scott session.
No, I know, I don't know yet. Thank you. Any questions for Barry? Mr. Nathanson, any other updates on liaison reports? Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, we know that many of our schools had their back-to-school nights, so compliments to all of you. Obviously, I couldn't be to all of them, but specifically to the ones I was able to attend at Dayton, Principal Plummer, and Principal Capes and her illustrious administrative staff at South. You did a wonderful job. I appreciate you. And parents were just enormous in numbers, especially at South. They were parking all over the lawn and everything. I mean, it was just a big deal. And so I'm really happy about our community, our education community, and how we take education seriously. And I'm quite sure, I wasn't there, I don't know who went to high schools, but I'm quite sure theirs was just as intense. Because typically at the high school level, parental involvement lessons. But I don't know if that's true here. Because I've been to too many programs at the high school level where
High school hallways were crowded.
yeah, it's you better get there early. That's all I have to say. But you know, kudos to all of you and the job you've done, to the teachers, to every student. Some of the students showed up. Some of the students helped out. I know for a fact at South, they showed up and they helped out. So, thank you so much, and continue to do what you do. And happy Principals Month.
Thank you.
That's my report.
Very good. And I just have two things. I had an opportunity to visit Macio's at the high school cafeteria. And I got to tell you, I've got pictures. I'll send them out to the team. They have done a phenomenal job. So Mr. Pulaski and Mr. Fetter, thank you for opening that RFP. Please pass on our thanks to them. I have heard nothing but great things coming from, actually, I happened to talk to one of the staff members. We were just chatting during the 9th grade lunch, but I happened to see the 9th grade lunch, and they did a beautiful job. So thanks to Macio's. Also to Ms. Plummer, thank you. I also went to the dean's preschool back-to-school night, and I got a chance to sit in on one of the classes. And I got to tell you, if our preschoolers are going to be amazing. As soon as you walk in, it's bright, it's cheery, it's so bright that the first thing you do is smile. So if there's ever an open house for our preschool, I would recommend everybody attend. What I found fascinating was Tools of the Mind, the curriculum. If you have a chance, any parent interested, go online, check out Tools of the Mind. It is a fascinating curriculum, and I learned a lot. And I look forward to seeing what our preschoolers are going to deliver. And thank you again to the staff there. They did a great job. And thank you to everyone that hosted back to school nights on behalf of the board, every single principal, vice principal, staff member. Thank you for your work and your effort to produce a phenomenal back to school night at every school. Thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to know from the elementary teacher, principals, how's your food?
Can't ask that question. No.
I know, I don't expect an
No
answer.
answers.
Because I just, and
They're-
I know
it's
the
going
high
well.
school is amazing and the middle schools are
You
amazing.
could, if you want to have an opportunity, you can go see it. It's very good. It's it's same as high school. All right, moving on. Public comments. All right. Did you just want to say something? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something. Okay. I'm trying. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of Policy 0167, which cover this portion of the meeting, are available to the public at the auditorium entrance, online, or by contacting the board office. To permit the fair and orderly expression of comments, we ask that participants be recognized by the presiding officer and preface comments by announcing his or her name, place of residence, and group affiliation if appropriate. And also complete the sign-in sheet. Please print legibly, or we may be unable to document your name for the permanent record. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic. Mr. Pawlowski will indicate when you have 15 minutes remaining. All statements should be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members. It is our plan to listen to each member of the public. Once all questions and comments from all members of the public are made, the Board of Education may respond via email in the most timely and efficient manner available. All questions and comments will be noted. Mr. Pawlowski, do we have anybody that registered for public comments? One.
No, we do not.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment on the agenda items only? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public comment. Moving on, old business. We do not have any old business at this time, nor do we have any new business at this time. Next will be, the order of business will be the consent agenda review by Mr. Pawlowski. Mr. Pawlowski, please.
So tonight's agenda is pretty quick. We have a bills list, a Unified Champion Schools grant. We are doing a bunch of statement of assurances, assuring the state that we've went through the process of each of those motions, item 1 through 4 through 1-8. We have a travel-related reimbursement expenses. We're approving student field trips. I'd like to get a real quick, Mrs. Rogers, a motion and a second to approve a South Brunswick High School Computer Science Club trip to New Providence for November 19th, which is before the next board meeting. If I could get a motion and a
I have
second.
a motion for Mr. Mitchell, motion. Dr. Raj, second. All in favor? Any
Perfect.
nays?
I'll
Motion
add that to the list.
approved.
We have a displaced student tuition contracts and some out-of-district placement approvals. We have some contract for transportation, a few sidebars, and your personnel. That's your consent agenda.
Any questions for Mr. Pawlowski? None. May I have a motion and a second for consent agenda of October 15th?
I'll move it.
Mr. Nathanson, move. Ms. Dr. Raj, second. All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, darn it.
Here we go.
Roll call, please. Sorry, I caught myself. Roll call, please, Mr.
Julie
Pawlowski.
Farrar, Mrs. Julie Farrar,
Accept.
Mrs. Laura Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Deepa Karthik, Ms. Alicia Khan,
Yes.
Mr. Mike Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Roger Krishna,
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson,
Yes.
Dr. Smitha Raj, Mrs. Lisa Rogers.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Consent agenda has been approved. Thank you so much. Next is the public comment, second opportunity for public comments of any type. This is the second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. Mr. Pawlowski, do we have any members of the public who pre-registered?
No.
Are there any members of the audience that would like to make a public comment on any matter? Seeing none, that will close the second opportunity for public comments. Please note, our next scheduled Board of Education meeting is set for November 21. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn? Motion by Ms. Hernandez. Second, please. Who's seconding? I can't see. Oh, Ms. Khan, second. Sorry, Ms. Khan did. All in favor? Any nays? Thank you, South Brunswick. Have a great evening.